All right, hi guys. As you can tell, we're in a slightly different setting. That's because today I'm not going to be teaching you something per se. I'm going to be going through an example of a concept. I assume that you've watched episode 1 because I'm going to draw heavily from the stuff that I talk about in that episode. And we're going to look at one of my own pieces called Autumn Evening, and I wrote this about a year ago around this time. And we're just going to look at the first phrase. I wrote this piece because of the time of the year, band reviews. I like the colors, just the atmosphere, I guess. So I kind of wanted to write something that kind of encompassed that. So something that was atmospheric and kind of floaty and uncertain at times. I actually do a number of things to express that in music. But before I get into that, let's listen to how it sounds. So, what's your first impression? What does it feel like? I wouldn't go as far to say it feels like angsty. It just feels like you have something, you don't know how to express it. You're just kind of in a zone. You just kind of exist in this place. It's kind of a floaty feeling that's not necessarily sad or not necessarily happy. It's somewhere in between. So, let's get into how I actually built it. So, if you look at it, we're actually going to go to a rhythmic simplification of it. Here's just the melody line, and here's the rhythmic simplification. What we actually listened to was an 8-bar phrase, but if you look, there's actually 9 bars. See, this is bar 9, and that's because one of the things that I do to create this ambiguity is to obscure the start and the end of each phrase. So if you remember from the video, typically music sounds best that's symmetrical or even, and in this case, an 8-bar phrase does the job. So we actually have 2 sub-phrases that are 4 bars long. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. But as you can see, let's actually look down here. At the 4th bar, it's still kind of going. There's still motion. It's not until the 5th that we actually resolve. So yeah, obscuring the boundaries between phrases, that's a way that I create ambiguity. But a way to make it kind of, I guess, that expressive quality. Yes, there's all the sound coming through, but the way that it's tied together is by the simplicity of the melodic line. So if you look, it's all very scalar, meaning it only moves by like whole steps or half steps. There's only like a few like 2 or 3 instances. There's these skips, and that's a peak. That's definitely, there's a statement going on there. It's important. So let's go bar by bar. If you look at the first bar, you'll notice we have this. And if you look at the rhythmic simplification, that's really what I intend to do. A large part of this piece is the atmosphere, as I said. And the atmosphere is created just by sitting like on a sound, on a feel. I mean, as you can see in the actual, it's like a whole chord. Like that, it's like a whole chord. But in the melody line, it's just represented as a single note. Yeah, so we hit that wall of sound. And the point of this, honestly, is just to bridge the gap between one feel to the next, which is what I do here. Remember, strong beats and weak beats. One is very strong beat, as you can see, and these are just kind of connecting notes. But if the point is just to connect them, why didn't I just do this in the first place? Well, the reason why I have this is, again, to create that sense of like ambiguity, obscure like the rhythmic feel of it. It gives it a floaty feeling. Like, you remember Gregorian chants? They didn't even have like rhythmic structures like measures and time signatures. So this kind of, I guess, draws from that type of idea. So yeah, let's just do a comparison. So it's kind of, boring, a little overused. Again, as you can see here, these are all connecting lines. Why I just didn't do the same type 3 times like I did in the rhythmic simplification to prevent overuse. And here, these straight 16ths actually give kind of like a pushing feeling, like we're rushing into the next measure. And the reason for that actually is because this might be going a bit beyond the scope of what we're comfortable with. We have a similar chord in these 2 measures, right? So by using these 16ths to rush into the next measure, it kind of signals a sort of transition, like we're going to this new chord. Now here we take our foot off the gas in terms of rhythmic variety. It's pretty straight, and the reason for that is to kind of enjoy the harmony as it is without kind of getting in the way too much. That's obvious in this long D, and then at this D right here, you see we go down by a half step. This is actually a bit of suspension. Normally the strong beats, 1 and 3, they would be the points of resolve. But this is actually acting as a point of tension because we don't resolve until right here. And again, I pre-fire the resolve by just using this dotted quarter instead of just going by straight notes. And then this measure is kind of crazy. Seems like for no reason. As you can see, all I'm really doing is going up the scale. But it's far more interesting to go up the scale in like a wave, like sine wave, as opposed to just, 2 straight lines. And again, I use rhythmic variation to kind of obscure the feeling of it. In some cases, like the triplets and the 16ths are next to each other, and that creates, again, an uneven sense of where the actual beat is. Just something that I love, atmospheric. Okay, so this kind of rolling feeling, what's going on here? So obviously the rhythm is the same. This block right here is the same rhythmic idea as that. But as you can see, there's a lot of skips. So let's just look at each note. Instead of going in a scale, each note is actually making a statement. Because, again, this might be going a little over, but these chords, I change the speed at which I change chords. Chords happen more often in this measure. So there's 2 chords in this measure as opposed to typically just 1 right here. So each note in the melody has to make a statement. That's how I think of it. And then this, instead of just being a straight line, it's an enclosure, as you can see. We go above it, and then we go below it, and then we land. And just by itself, listen to this. Yeah, so again, 1 should be that strong beat. We should be resolved there. It doesn't sound very resolved by itself. And actually, if you look at the chord, this is just music theory, that's the sharp 11 of the C major scale. You typically don't resolve to the sharp 11. It's usually a pretty far out note from C major. But I feel like I kind of make it work. It kind of sounds like a resolve, but you're not really comfortable until you land on that E. So yeah, that's kind of a breakdown of, why I do all this crazy stuff rather than just this like rhythmically simple stuff. Again, mood, atmosphere, autumn, change, different colors. Just a lot of stuff that can't be described with regular words. So I did it like this because, that's easier for me. Probably have a lot of questions, and I probably rambled at certain spots when I could have simplified things. But hey, this is kind of a trial, and please let me know if you need to do more of these or if you'd like me to do more like just kind of scripted, instructional videos. But I mean, I hope this gave you a better sense of how I construct melody, how I think about melody, a little bit of why I do the things that I do. For now, I'm Krishna Mandal, and thank you for watching.